This is the Bontrager XR4 tire, and my story with this tire begins about 3 months ago at Snow Summit Bike Park, where I'd been working as a mountain bike coach for the season. The season was coming to a close, and the shop had a surplus of these 27.5 by 2.4 Tanwall XR4 tires. Being one of the few employees who rode 27.5-inch wheels, I was offered a free set, and I almost declined it, because let's be real, how good can a light casing trail tire made by Trek actually be? But before we get deeper into my story with these tires, I think it makes sense if we start by talking about the naming system Bontrager uses with its tires, which I'm thankful to say is refreshingly simple and intuitive. Every tire begins with a couple letters, either XR, SE, or G. These are basically just the casing, with XR being their trail casing, SE being more of an enduro all-mountain casing, and G being their gravity casing. You could kind of compare these to EXO, EXO Plus, and Double Down if you're familiar with Maxxis tires. After that comes a number, anywhere from 1 to 6. The lower the number is, the faster rolling the tire will be. So the XR1 tire would be your go-to cross-country tire, whereas the G6 would actually in this case not be an airplane, but would be the tire you'd use for a super wet, gnarly downhill race. Like I said earlier, the tire I ended up with was the XR4. Bontrager describes this tire as an aggressive tread that provides incredible traction and cornering performance on loose, rocky trails, whether they're wet or dry, which really just speaks to the all-around nature that I think Bontrager was going for when they made these tires. I would say the tread pattern on this XR4 is somewhat similar to the Schwalbe Knobby Nick, or maybe somewhere in between the Aggressor and the Dissector if you're more familiar with Maxxis tires. It should go without saying that this tire, with its less aggressive tread and probably a little lighter casing, is a good bit lighter than the Maxxis DHF and DHR2 tires I was running before. This XR4 tire in 27.5 by 2.4 inches weighs 1 pound 10 ounces or 745 grams. That saves me about 200 grams in the front compared to the 943 gram DHF that I was running, and about 160 grams in the back compared to the 910 gram DHR2 that I had before putting these on. So with those specs out of the way, let's jump back into my story with the XR4 tire. Before being given these tires, I actually had a little bit of an experience with them, and that was in the form of the 2.8 version, which Trek specs as the OEM tire on the Trek Remedy. And I have to be honest with you, I absolutely hated them. Now, I have never really ridden any plus size full suspension bikes, so I don't know if it was just that platform that I didn't get along with, but I could not find any grip on these tires, and I ended up lowering the PSI so much to try and find that grip that I ended up getting a flat within just a couple runs of riding that bike. Needless to say, my expectations weren't high when I went ahead and installed these tires after my trusty Maxxis finally bit the bullet. Speaking of the installation, it actually went pretty well. I was able to get both tires mounted, even with my Tannis tubeless insert in the back, in probably just about a half hour with no blood blisters and only a few outbreaks of explicitives. After the install, I tentatively took the bike out on its first run at Snow Summit, super nervous about the grip issues and the flats. I was pleasantly surprised that I did not have those same issues with these narrower 2.4-inch tires. Over time, I've come to find out that this XR4 tire does lose grip a little bit more easily than the DHR2 that I had before, but in a kind of predictable, comforting way that, if anything, just makes riding that much more fun. I'm also super surprised that I have yet to get a flat tire with these. Now, I should preface by saying that I do run 30 PSI front and back and run a Tannis tubeless insert in the back here, but I weigh 200 pounds and push this bike pretty dang hard. I thought for sure I was going to be getting flats just based on the light weight of these tires, which was really noticeable first just holding both tires in my hand, but has also been noticeable while riding. Now, hopefully I didn't just jinx myself, but so far these tires have stood up to everything I've thrown at them. So at the end of the day, the Bontrager XR4 tire has taught me a really big lesson, and that's that you can't just buy things based off of the brand that everybody else likes. And there's a lot of smaller, cheaper brands making great products. And this is a lesson that I think most cyclists need to learn. If you're an aggressive trail rider or even an enduro racer, the Bontrager XR4 tire is a fast rolling, but still surprisingly grippy and strong tire that I'd highly recommend. Sure, you might want to run a little bit higher PSI and maybe put an insert in the back like I do, but this tire has been surprisingly robust, and honestly, I've really loved the way it felt on the trail. If you've had good luck with other value-oriented or even just less popular mountain bike products, let me know what they are in the comments because I'm curious to give them a try too. After you've done that, go ahead and hop on your bike, find your nearest trail, your nearest skate park, your nearest dirt jumps, and hopefully I'll see you out there.